Welcome to our Devil. Today we are taking a look at r/am I the antagonist. Our first story is from GRMX82. Am I the antagonist for pointing out that my daughter's tech internship is a diversity program only for women? My daughter, 19 female, did an internship at a prestigious tech company this summer. We're very proud of her, of course. A family friend came over for dinner. His son is a similar age and also studying computer science but struggling to get any internships despite taking much more advanced courses than my daughter. His son, who I know personally and is a great kid, has been programming since he was 12 and has made lots of programming side projects as his hobby. I pointed out that the internship my daughter did was a diversity initiative that only accepts women and minorities. I only pointed this out because I didn't want him or his son to feel too disappointed about not getting an internship. Additionally, my daughter has only taken one computer science class prior to getting the internship and so far she doesn't seem passionate about it. So I thought this was valid to point out since if it wasn't a diversity program, likely someone with more experience would have gotten it. My daughter and wife think I'm a total awe. My daughter said it was belittling and humiliated her. She's refusing to talk to me. But from my perspective, all I did was point out something that was true. Am I the antagonist? Comment by Franchuta. So you don't want your male OFC friend or his son to feel bad. But it's okay to make them feel good about themselves by humiliating your daughter? You are the antagonist. In so many ways I'm not sure you'll ever get out of the doghouse. You reminded me of the time I was in a college network security class. First day of the semester. I was the only woman. Of course. And all the guys in the classroom were having a good old time wondering whether I was going to be able to understand anything. They were using that voice menus when they want to make fun of women and get away with it. You know it. I'm sure you've used it too. Loud enough to be heard, but low enough to be able to pretend the woman must have PMS if she protests. Enters the teacher. He bursts out laughing and says, "Well, I sure hope she understands it because she is the co-teacher and MOF, she's the one who will be grading all of you." Both of which were true OFC. Daughter's age. I'd most certainly have chickened out and dropped the class. And that's how the rumor keeps going about women/girls not being interested in STEM. You know that rumor. From what you have written you believe it and didn't hesitate to humiliate your own daughter in its name. Note 2. As I said, I was the only woman in the class. And I was one of the teachers, so that was one more STEM class girls/women had been scared out of. Fun part. The following semester 3 girls joined the class because they knew one of the co-teachers was a woman. Note 3. You felt you had the right to humiliate your daughter to protect the feelings of your male friend and his son. Let me make that clear. It was more important for you to protect the feelings of two males, against possible equality. God forbid. Than the feelings of your own daughter, against very real inequality. But who cares? She's only a woman. It takes so little to show girls they can. But also so little, Daddy dearest writing you off, to make them believe they can't. I hope you're not planning for Father of the Year anytime soon. Edit. Typos. Yes. Time with typos. Comment by Hangry Girl. You are the antagonist. So many women in STEM. Especially in Dev. Get told they were only diversity hires or they were hired for their looks. Their individual accomplishments and achievements get downplayed and brushed off. While it may have been an initiative, that doesn't mean your daughter was any less qualified, less passionate, or less capable as you made her sound. You belittled her in front of your guests and implied her internship meant nothing because she only got it because she's a woman and minority. She still beat out other competition to get that position and completed the program. You made so many assumptions about her capabilities and feelings. You owe her an apology. Edit. Oh wow. Thank you so much for the awards. And to the women in STEM. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Representation matters. Comment by So Sleepy Sue. You are the antagonist. You sound like the guy who will claim the new person was only hired because they're insert protected class here and you're passing that attitude to your friend and his son. It's never a good idea to downplay your daughter's accomplishments to make a friend's son feel less bad about himself. Our next story is from Posse L. Am I the antagonist for embarrassing our female coworker? Both my husband and I work for a dispensary as co-owners and managers. He is inventory manager and I'm kitchen manager. Though up until last month I was at a different shop. I recently got the transfer approval. In our shop we only employ 11 people, 3 women including me. 8 men. One of the women is the owner's wife and she handles the finances, and the other woman, Jen, handles the front end. Now to be blunt here. Jen is a ducking smoke show. Drop dead gorgeous young lady, and to be blunt again. All the men here drool over her. Probably my husband included. I mean, even I drool over her. Let's be honest. But she is also, I don't know how to put it. She runs through the men here. She has already dated, or hooked up with 3 of them, and recently her eyes went to my husband. I'm used to this type of behavior because my husband is also a solid 10 on a bad day. But she also knows he is married, so there is definitely a disrespectful aspect of things there. However, she did not know that I was his wife until this morning. So my husband came to me yesterday and was like, listen. Jen has been trying to take breaks with me and she often gets into my truck without asking whenever. She sees me sitting outside. Asking that I smoke her up and being flirty, like touching his arms and legs type of shit. So I asked if he wanted me to handle it and he said, please. But don't be rude about it, because he had already told her several times he was married, and her only response is, oh I already know that, and continues on her BS. Well, I knew his break was at 10 and I made a point to come out a few minutes later. I walked to the truck and lo and behold, Jen is in the front seat. I hear my husband say, that's my wife's seat, and she just giggles and says she is keeping it warm. Please note we are in our 30s and this girl is 23. So I go up to the window and say, thanks for keeping my seat warm, but I'm here now. She just scowls at me and says, we are kind of talking here. So I go, yes. I see that, and now I would like to speak to my husband, with a smile on my face. Her face drops and she gets out quickly. Now the problem is that 3 of the guys were sitting there too, and they immediately start laughing. Which embarrassed her even more. The owner's wife said I should have pulled Jen aside and said something versus embarrass her in front of everyone. Am I the antagonist? Apparently Jen and the owner's wife are the only 2 who think so. Edited to add, this girl has been reported to HR. However, in a blurred lines version of events, Jen is the owner's wife's cousin. Therefore none of the reports are taken seriously and likely never will be. Comment by Mindless Sky 9. Not the antagonist. For people incapable of learning that no is a complete sentence. Shame and embarrassment are highly effective teachers. You manage the situation perfectly. Comment by Sunfloweries. Not the antagonist. Wait. So your husband directly told her to stop her behavior. It was unprofessional/unwanted. It's not cute or funny or whatever. And she continued to harass him? Why has she just not been fired? Comment by Weekly Guava 801. Not the antagonist. You didn't embarrass her. She embarrassed herself. Our next story is from Several Champion 3434. Am I the antagonist for being furious with my wife for returning our daughter's birthday gift? I, 40 male, and my wife, 41 female, have been married for 12 years. We have a daughter and son together. Our daughter is turning 8 and has been wanting a Nintendo Switch. My wife got laid off from her job and has become more frugal with money. I am still working and am happy to provide for the family. I have no issue with saving money. We have been planning daughter's birthday party and my wife has made it clear that the budget is $50. She bought all the decorations from the dollar store, which I didn't see an issue with. She told my daughter she could only invite 5 of her friends as it would save money on the amount of food we would have to spend. I bought the cake and the pizza. Daughter told us that she wanted a Nintendo Switch. My wife looked up the price for one and told her that it was too expensive. I found a Switch online for a good price and purchased it. Her birthday party was this past weekend. She was so excited seeing that we got her a Switch. When everything calmed down, my wife started yelling at me for purchasing the console. I told her that I got the system for a good price. Daughter started school this year. When I picked her up from school, she went up to her bedroom to play with the Switch. She starts crying and tells me the Switch was missing. I looked through her entire room and couldn't find it anywhere. My wife comes home handing me some money and tells me that she sold the Switch and got the money back. I started screaming at her for selling the Switch and upsetting our daughter. Her reasoning was that daughter wasn't letting brother use the console and that I spent money we didn't have. She packed a bag and is currently staying with her sister. I have purchased my daughter another Switch along with some games. Sister-in-law thinks I am being a horrible husband and not respecting my wife's decision on saving money. Comment by the Riker Maneuver. Info: can you actually afford the Switch, or is your wife just scared because she lost her job? Comment by I am Austin CG. So to recap. You bought your daughter a gift that she wanted. Your wife threw a fit because you can't afford it. And instead of taking the issue out on you or temporarily making a budget change to recap the loss, thought it seems money ATM isn't a huge issue. She instead took it out on your daughter and returned the gift? Not the antagonist. Hard not the antagonist. Solely for the fact she took it out on her daughter. Comment by Pinebox Waiting. Not the antagonist wife was so far out of line, I can't even. Returning the console on day 2 or 3. She was intent on punishing both you and your daughter. And there's really no excuse for what she did. Sure. You spent money she didn't want you to spend. But returning the 6 Yo's gift after it had been gifted was cruel. Your wife is clearly way more stressed about money than you are. Does she know something you don't? Our next story is from Elite 2017. Am I the antagonist for my response for my wife's mom's gender disappointment? Alright, let's get right to it. My wife, female 33, and I, male 34, have 2 beautiful daughters. We're currently expecting. And recently found out the gender of the baby. It's a girl. Again. No biggie, I love girls and I'm beyond happy and thrilled. We visited my in-laws to make the announcement after dinner. We were all seated at the table when my wife announced the gender of the baby. My mother-in-law looked disappointed and didn't even try to hide it. That's fine. Gender disappointment or whatever they call it is fine. People are entitled to feelings, you can't control that. Right? Shrugs, however. She gave me a look then flat out said, "A girl?" Again. Something seems off here. Turns to me. You know that men are responsible for the gender of the baby, right? I replied with, so? You think I must be doing something wrong or something? She responded, no. But I'm just being honest here. I responded with, it's fine really. They're kids. Why would their intimacy matter? I don't plan on inbreeding them. Suddenly everyone started laughing and mother-in-law went completely quiet. She excused herself to the bathroom and stayed there for a while. Dinner got awkward. Like really. I mean really awkward, and we had to go home. My wife started getting angry calls from her mom about me embarrassing and humiliating her with the stupid joke I made at dinner table. She said I disrespected her in her own home. I told my wife that her mom was blatantly trying to blame me. My wife said that technically her mom was right in that men are responsible about the gender of the baby. I said so what? We learned this at school. Why bring it up? My wife suggested I apologize to her mom and she'll talk to her, but I refused. Am I the antagonist? Comment by Valis Gracia. Not the antagonist, it's not like you can actually choose which one of your swimmers is the fastest. Comment by Red MSG. Comment by Beneficial Step 9088. Not the antagonist. After my daughter was born, my ex thought it was a good idea to mention to me that he was disappointed the baby wasn't a boy and wouldn't carry on the family name. I told him that he could always hope that she ended up an unwed mother and gave the baby her last name. He didn't think that was funny. Our next story is from Throw Our Asexuality. Am I the antagonist for explaining what asexuality is to my mother-in-law? I, 26 female, am married to my husband, 29 male. I'm an asexual. I'm also pregnant. My mother-in-law is a very lovely lady. She's a bit sheltered but she's very sweet. When I told her I was pregnant, she was confused. She thought that being asexual meant that you didn't have intimacy, so she asked if we did IUI. I laughed and I explained that some asexuals do have intimacy and not all are sex repulsed. She was really fascinated and asked me to expand on it. So we sat down together over some tea and I explained all the different types of asexuality that I know of to her. She was awe-struck and she said she thought she was the same type of asexual that I am. I'm an asexual who still has a libido and enjoys intimacy from time to time, but I don't experience sexual attraction. I showed her some websites and then I had to leave to pick up my stepson from school. She called me later on that day and said she really resonated with the stuff that I had told her and she was really happy to learn that there wasn't something wrong with her. I got a little teary because she's in her late 60s and she spent most of her life thinking that there was something wrong with her. I have a little asexual keyring on my keys, so I ordered a matching one for her and she was delighted. It was honestly so fun seeing her this excited. She decided to come out to her husband, my father-in-law. He was not happy at all. He called me and berated me for corrupting his wife with my modern views. He said that I was brainwashed by social media and I was now brainwashing his wife. Mother-in-law, who is usually a doormat, actually stood her ground and she told father-in-law to leave me alone and that he had to accept her identity. Now they're not speaking to each other and mother-in-law is staying with us. My husband is on mine and my mother-in-law's side, but we've been bombarded with calls from father-in-law and other family members. According to them, there's no reason for a 65-year-old woman with 4 kids to need a label, and her being asexual doesn't matter because she's been married for the past 42 years and they're blaming me for causing a fight between mother-in-law and father-in-law. I'm starting to feel a little guilty because mother-in-law doesn't like being away from father-in-law and I feel like I should have just kept my mouth shut. Am I the antagonist? Comment by Red Belladorator. Not the antagonist. I remember learning for the first time about introverts. And the realization that there wasn't something wrong with me. That I didn't have to continue forcing myself to behave in ways that were uncomfortable for me. It didn't change much how I behaved. But it greatly improved the way I felt about myself. I imagine it's the same for your mother-in-law. Labels aren't stupid. They can be damaging. Or they can be empowering. It's the latter for your mother-in-law. I don't blame her husband for being angry. Because his life has been a certain way for a very long time. And now something has come along and disrupted it out of the blue. But this is an adjustment that he needs to make. It's got nothing to do with you. And his attempt to make it about you is just a deflection on his part. A way for him to avoid coming to terms with his new reality. Don't take it personally. Hopefully he'll figure it out on his own. Comment by Bingo Practice. Not the antagonist at all. She was genuinely interested in hearing what you had to say. And I'd honestly say you did a good thing by introducing her to a world which she resonates with. Labels don't even matter. If your mother-in-law and father-in-law have had a successful marriage until now. A label will not change the dynamic of the relationship long-term. The slight divide put between your mother-in-law and father-in-law may be as a result of your introduction of asexuality to your mother-in-law. But that doesn't make you responsible for your father-in-law's reaction. If anyone is the antagonist here, it's your father-in-law. Comment by Hatley Hats. Not the antagonist. She's had one in her head for most of her life. Until you. That label was broken. Our next story is from Addicted. Am I the antagonist for telling a lady her baby is a waste of space? I know the title sounds bad, but hear me out. I, female 19, have a baby sister, 11 Mo, who I babysit quite often. Mostly because my mom had a knee surgery after an accident quite recently, so she can't walk very well yet, the result of many years of struggling with joint problems. She's got a fancy titanium knee now. This took place a couple days ago, when my sister started coughing and having a runny nose. Then overnight came a slight fever. I know now this is just a common cold. But obviously I was worried and told my mom I would gladly take her to the doctor. I have a driver's license but am very scared of driving. I got into an accident the first time driving alone and this kind of traumatized me. I live in a big city in Europe where public transportation is great, so it's no big deal to not use a car. Half of the way to the doctor's is done via tram. For the rest of the way I have to use a bus. Usually these buses are sufficiently big but with limited space for strollers and wheelchairs. That day the bus was unusually cramped. Full of people standing as well as a woman in a wheelchair. 2 old ladies with walkers and 2 strollers. So I could barely fit with my baby sister in her stroller. I asked one of the women with a stroller if she could move a bit and make space. As a response she just rolled her eyes. I asked her again and she just told me to wait for the next bus. which takes about 15 minutes, as her baby needs the space. Well, I look at the baby, and it's a doll? A very realistic looking one. But still a doll. I got very angry at that point and told her that my baby is sick and needs to go to the doctor, and she just ignored me. So I kind of lashed out and told her that her fake baby is a waste of space that other people with real babies or wheelchairs could need. The lady got really offended, insulted me under her breath, and finally moved. Quite a few people looked at me angrily. I know some people need these dolls, for example, to deal with grief, but I don't understand why you can't move over if someone asks you. Or why you need to put it in a stroller in the first place. It's not even real after all, and the space on public transport is limited. She could have been taking the space from a disabled person, when she has the option not to. Still, since a lot of people judged me, I'm wondering if I was in the wrong. Am I the antagonist? Comment by VO. Not the antagonist. I'd prioritize any living being over a doll. Comment by Argatla Male 53. I tell this to let people know. It's not true that those dolls are prescripted for dealing with grief. There is not a good doctor who will do that. So not the antagonist. That woman was only batshit crazy. Comment by Miserable Bat 3909. Not the antagonist. Walking around with a doll who needs space sounds like a huge first world problem. There's a sick kid who legit needs space. How can someone even begin to compare the situation to a doll? Madness. Info. Do people in Europe actually walk around with dolls as a way to deal with grief? I live in a third world country and I just can't wrap my head around it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button, and subscribe to our Devil. See you in the next one.